Hello, and welcome back to Post Traumatic Revelations. I am your host, Ofra Caraballo. And in today's episode, we are looking at the concept of safety in movement. So often we find ourselves stuck in fear, post traumatic fear, which includes judgment, guilt, and shame, those constant barriers to healing. And that fear can be really seductive, really powerful, and convincing. It can be this real seductive trap, this place that we end up stuck post traumatically. Now, whenever we are stressed, overwhelmed, and traumatized, our bodies naturally respond. And that response will vary based on your perceived ability to manage the situation. So we're feeling stressed, our bodies respond, hormones adjust, and we meet the demand. We meet the expectation. We manage the stress. But then there's those times when we feel overwhelmed or traumatized. And then our bodies respond again, increased hormones affecting our limbs, our sight, our smell, our abilities. So our body kind of suits up, ready for the fight or flight, right? Or the stress response. So, in this heightened state, to manage or to attempt to manage this overwhelming situation, the body prepares to fight, to defend itself. But when that defense is not possible, then the body adjusts again, right? Redistributing oxygen and blood and preparing for flight, to flee the situation, to escape this overwhelming or traumatic event, right? Potentially traumatic event. But when we can't fight and we can't flight, then the body kind of it freezes, right? Fight, flight, freeze. The body freezes, and it's this kind of a dissociation. We're not conscious in this time. It's this separation of consciousness. We're no longer consciously in our bodies, right? But the body endures this situation, right? And that traumatic thing happens. And it leaves us feeling terrified, horrified, helpless, and hopeless. Because in that moment, we couldn't help ourselves out of it. No one else could help us, right? And there was no hope of preventing this thing from happening. But after the situation is over, we're left with a wound, a trauma, right? Trauma means wound. So we're left with this wound. Now, there may or may not be physical, visible wounds, but what I'm talking about here today is emotional wounds, those psychological wounds, those invisible wounds, spiritual wounds, if you're with that, if of that thought, but those wounds we cannot see. They're invisible, right? And so our attempt at safety, to feel safe post traumatically, ends up being this array of behaviors. So we're going to look at what safety is, real safety, the illusion of safety, the concept of safety post traumatically, and some ways that we try to get that back. So, post traumatically, we just want to feel safe again. We just want to feel in control of ourselves and our environments again. So, we change how we show up, or maybe we decide to just stop showing up, or maybe we isolate ourselves or overexpose ourselves in some new and uncharacteristic ways. Our post traumatic choices can vary depending on who we are, where we are, who we belong to, who we belong with, what kind of support and resources we have. But regardless of how rich you are, or how poor you are, or old or young, regardless of any kind of social status, post traumatically, we just want to feel safe. So, our goal after a traumatic event is to never feel helpless and hopeless and powerless, never to feel horrified and terrified again. The goal to feel safe again becomes almost all consuming. We become preoccupied with just how to get back to normal. How do I feel safe again in my skin, in my body, in my town, in my home, in my family? Some of us try to achieve this goal of safety by just shutting down, emotionally numbing out. If I can't feel anything, if I avoid attaching to anyone, then I can't be hurt. I can't be surprised. I can't be betrayed. Or maybe we shut down psychologically. We just become consumed with thoughts of security, defense, protection, regret, revenge, judgment, guilt, shame, punishment. We become consumed with how to prevent ever being traumatized again. And these thoughts, this drive, can end up affecting our behaviors in ways that disrupts our lives, our relationships, our jobs, our growth, our healing. These thoughts and these behaviors can become diagnoses like depression, anxiety, bipolar, post traumatic stress, right? But in some of these cases, our thoughts become so consuming that we can find ourselves unable to sleep, unable to focus, unable to concentrate. We don't want to feel anything. We don't want to do anything. We don't want to engage in anything. We might have nightmares. Sometimes images of the traumatic event just intrude on our day. Like one minute you're having lunch with a friend, and next minute these images of a traumatic event pops into your head. Sometimes you can see the people you love, but you feel nothing. Sometimes you get caught in these loops of repetitive behaviors that you feel like you have no control over. The need to feel safe again can become its own prison. The need to prevent and avoid any surprises in the name of safety can stunt our growth. Safety is a learned and human concept. We're not born afraid, but safety, the concept of be safe, don't hurt yourself, be safe, don't hurt yourself, it's taught, right? A newborn baby isn't afraid of water. They're born knowing how to swim, but because of the parents' fears or the guardians' fears, by 4 or 5 years old, they're afraid of the water, right? So Safety can become its own prison when it's born out of fear. Now, to be sure, ev- every living thing wants to live and thrive and does to the best of its ability. But only humans can avoid and refuse to heal. Other living things will retract from danger, avoid danger, respond to dangerous stimuli, right? Retract from it, withdraw from it. But once the danger has passed, they go on about their business. They go on grazing in the fields and growing and expanding. But no, not humans. As humans, we have the ability, for better or worse, but we have the ability to imagine ongoing danger. We have the ability to imagine the worst possible outcomes, and it freezes us. Now, we can reason ourselves into a state of illness or into a state of wellness. Mental illness isn't about being stupid. No, quite the contrary, actually. Depression is the result of some traumatic loss that you never had permission to mourn properly. That invalidated loss, that unaddressed sadness associated with that traumatic loss festers and becomes illness. Similarly, anxiety is a result of some traumatic loss, whether it was a job or a relationship, a person, but it's a traumatic loss that you believe on some level that you could have prevented and you never had permission to forgive yourself or to fix it. And so, as a result of this loss, we can go down this road of helpless and hopeless and powerless, telling ourselves things like, if I don't try, I can't fail. Or if everything fails, then why bother? If everyone leaves, then why try? And there is some truth to this. Everything does end at some point, but the illness is in the unwillingness to start or try again. And similarly with anxiety, the need to control every move, every outcome, the need to be right, the need to be perfect. It doesn't allow for the adventures that can make life worth living. Anxiety says, if I just do this, I'll be good enough. If I just do that, I'll be clean enough. I'll be worthy. I'll be fast enough to stay ahead of any possible danger, any possible loss. If I just stay busy, I won't get caught off guard. And again, there is some truth to this. But if you never stop and enjoy the journey of life, then what's the point? If you never stop surviving, how do you finally get to live? If you never stop striving, how do you arrive? How do you enjoy? How do you know if you've succeeded? So, whether you're stuck in the pit of despair or on the never ending cycle of just get it right, the post traumatic prison that was designed to keep you safe, out of harm's way, has actually kept you stuck, frozen in fear. And this stagnation, this state of being stagnant, is the illness. So, what do I mean when I say safety in the movement? What I mean is in the movement, out of fear, as you move out of stagnation, in the movement out of the post traumatic freeze, the post traumatic prison, is safety. In the transformation from helpless, hopeless, is infinite possibility. There is safety in the becoming the new you, the new phase of you. As you move, you stop being a target. You stop being a sitting duck. You stop attracting predators to your bleeding wounds. You stop being a target. As you move into healing, into hope, into love, into the next best version of yourself, as you move out of the darkness into the light, you start to see more. You start to feel more. You start to hear more. And with this new information, you start to become more. You become more aware. You start to become stronger, wiser, freer. Safety in the movement is the transition from chrysalis or pupa into butterfly, from fetus to baby, from child to adult. In all of nature, there are moments. In all of nature, there are moments of change or die. I have learned that as humans, we can die in many different ways. We can die multiple times. We can die mentally, emotionally, financially, psychologically, socially. If we are unwilling or unable to change, we lose. If we are unwilling to move through the pain, through the darkness, we get stuck. We become ill. You ever wonder the miracle of birth, right? We talk about birth and humanity and having a baby, but the miracle of it, the timing of it, you know, the baby is safe for 40 weeks in the mother's womb. But after that, it has to come out. It has to move. It has to transition from fetus to baby, right? There's danger, real danger in staying too long to both the child and the mother, right? And think about for a butterfly, they get 8 to 12 days in the chrysalis. So 2 weeks, that's not acceptable, right? So it's move or perish. And that's the natural transformation. That's the natural cycle of our lives, right? That we have these traumas and we lose a part of ourselves. But the choice to stay stuck or move through the pain, through the darkness is the difference between existing and living, surviving and living. So, safety in the movement is about allowing yourself. Yeah, we're back to giving ourselves permission, but allowing yourself to move toward life, move toward the light, toward love, hope, and healing, move toward freedom. Safety is the willingness to be born, to fly, to stretch into the next best version of you. So, my friends, my fellow trauma survivors, I invite you to stretch, move toward freedom, move from the illusion of safety in that post traumatic prison, and move toward the reality of freedom, the freedom that lies in your new expansion, in your new awareness, in your new field of vision, your new wisdom, your new and infinite possibilities. Right? You can make a decision and change your mind. Just move toward the next best version of you. Expand your sense of self, your sense of awareness, your sense of being. Because what is safety without love? What is safety without freedom, hope, and healing? A prison of any kind is not safe. So, again, I invite you to safety. I invite you to love, to hope, to healing, and freedom. And I thank you again so much for your time and your permission. And until next time, be well.